Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa. Rudika Charja Ashtoto to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudika Acharya Ashtoto to the Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Madhiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 12th day of January, 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I'm sorry we don't have a verse on the board, but I think many of you have either a book or a device. I'm sorry, Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. Sorry. Maybe you can share with him. You can look Okay, we're beginning chapter 22 today, entitled Prithu Maharaja's Meeting with the Four Kumaras. Text number 1. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragnatsevam. Let's try that one again. It's 23:1. 22:1. 4:22:1. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragnatsevam Pritum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chadvara Suryavarchasaha. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pratum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chadvarak Suryavarchasaha. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pratum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chadvara Suryavarchasaha. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pratum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chadvarak Suryavarchasaha. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pritum Pritalavikramam Munayash Tatropajagmu Munayash Chadvarak Suryavarchasaha. No? Yes? Go ahead, go ahead. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pratum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chatvara Suryavarchasaha. Yes. Maitreya Uvacha Janeshu Pragunatsvevam Pratum Pritalavikramam Tatropajagmu Munayash Chatvara Suryavarchasaha. Maitreya Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Janeshu, the citizens, Pragunatsu, while praying for, Evam, thus, Pritum, unto Maharaj Prithu, Pritula, highly, Vikramam, powerful, Tatra, there, Upajagmuhu, arrived, Munayaha, the Kumaras, Chadvaraha, 4, Surya, as the sun, Varchasaha, bright. Translation. So you remember where we are. Maitreya is speaking to Vidura. This whole canto is Vidura listening to Maitreya. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prithu, the 4 Kumaras, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. All right, let's try the next one. Tang tu Siddheshwaran Raja Vyomno Vatarato Chasa Lokana Papan Kuvanan Sanugo Chashtalakshitan Seeing the glowing effulgence of the 4 Kumaras, the master of all mystic power, the king and his associates could recognize them as they descended from the sky. Purport. The 4 Kumaras are described herein as Siddheshwaran, which means masters of all mystic power. One who has attained perfection in yoga practice immediately becomes master of the 8 mystic perfections. Becomes smaller than the smallest, to become lighter than the lightest, to become bigger than the biggest, to achieve anything one desires, to control everything, etc. These 4 Kumaras, as Siddheshwaras, had achieved all the yogic perfectional achievements, and as such, they could travel in outer space without machines. While they were coming to Maharaj Prithu from other planets, they did not come by airplane, but personally. In other words, these 4 Kumaras were also spacemen who could travel in space without machines. The residents of the planet known as Siddhaloka can travel in outer space from one planet to another without vehicles. However, the special power of the Kumaras mentioned herewith is that whatever place they went to would immediately become sinless. During the reign of Maharaj Prithu, everything on the surface of this globe was sinless, and therefore the Kumaras decided to see the king. Ordinarily, they do not go to any planet which is sinful. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So the phrase here that Prabhupada mentions in the purport, Lokan Apapan Kurvanan, they made all the planets that they were traveling past and through on their way to Earth sinless because of their great yogic power and, more importantly, their devotional purity. When yogic power is matched with great devotional purity, then the person becomes a very powerful preacher. So these 4 Kumaras, they were the original persons in the universe. You may or may not remember that when Brahma became enlightened, he saw Krishna, and Krishna filled him with all kinds of knowledge in the heart at the beginning of the universe. So then his duty was to populate the universe. And that was a big job, how to do it. So all he had to work with was his own body, really. So from his mind, he created these 4 Kumaras. And he were hoping that there would be other, ladies that were created, and they would get married and start propagating the universe. But they refused. The 4 Kumaras decided to stay brahmachari forever. And so by their mystic power, because they were originally from birth, yogic perfection they had possessed, they were able to keep themselves at 5 or 6 years old. And so they never got married. But meanwhile, Brahma became angry because he had created them for the purpose of propagation, but they didn't want to do it. So from the middle of Brahma's eyebrows, between his eyes, came Lord Shiva, Rudra. Rudra means anger. So that's one understanding of how Shiva was manifested. So anyway, these 4 Kumaras then proceeded to travel. They were Brahmavadis. They weren't actually pure devotees at first. They were full of knowledge. They were empowered. They're called Shakti-based avatars. And each Shakti-based avatar has a specialty, a special power that they're empowered with by the Lord, invested with. So they were invested with the Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti. Generally, those who are involved in so much cultivation of Jnana, separating matter from spirit, they become Brahmavadis. They become liberated through the understanding the Brahman effulgence. Not so much devotion to Krishna personally. There are 3 stages of understanding the absolute truth: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Bhagavan reveals himself proportionally to how one approaches him. So those approached through Jnana, they are able to understand the Brahman effulgence and the undifferentiated absolute truth, the bright light. So they preferred that. They weren't Mayavadis because they weren't preaching that, Krishna or God or all of the varieties is Maya, it was illusion. But they preferred Brahman effulgence. So, as it's mentioned here, they can travel anywhere they want. So, it's described in the previous canto how they went up to Vaikuntha. But they couldn't get in. There were two guards there. You remember their names, Dharmaraj? Jai and Vijay. So those guards, they're meant to keep people, keep entities out who are not eligible to come to Vaikuntha. So they saw that these were not really pure devotees. They were merged in, Brahman understanding. And so they stopped them. They prevented them from going through the last gate. 7 gates, and they couldn't go through. So they became angry. They were furious, and so they cursed these two, Jai and Vijay, to come down to the earth, become demons, you see. Meanwhile, Vishnu came to the gate. He heard the ruckus going on, so he comes to the gate, and as soon as the Kumaras see him, actually it's described that they smell the fragrance of the tulsi manjaris. Tanchamanjari are the little blossoms on tulsi that are very fragrant. If you they became devotees. They went through a transformation and they became devotees just by that experience, by direct perception of Vishnu. Yes, describes there on the feet. They smelled the feet, the wonderful fragrance of his feet mixed with those manjaris. So that was enough to turn them. And they became very regretful for cursing the devotees of the Lord. This is Jai and Vijay. So Vishnu had to kind of pacify the Kumara and say, well, this is all my plan, don't worry about it. Because what happened with Jai and Vijay, they came down, they were able to get the benediction to come back after 3 births. But those 3 births were births as demons, as asuras. Now, let's go through the 3 pairs. We should know who they are. The first ones were... and Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Now the names are important. You know what Hiranyaksha means? Who can say? Always looking for gold. Aksha means eyes, and Hiranya is gold. So isn't that what the demons are always doing? Literally looking for gold, or trying to figure out how to make more money and exploit more and more. So Hiranyaksha has his own pastime there with Varaha. He's always mining for gold, and he created an imbalance in the earth. Prabhupada explains it, and it fell into the Garbhodak ocean. We also remember that we're in like an egg. We're in an open space which is surrounded by 8 layers of matter, each one 10 times thicker than the last. The first one is earth and water, fire, everything. And so it's said that this universe is 4 billion miles wide, and so that makes the earth 40 billion miles wide, and the water 400 billion miles. So we're in a little little space within a big covering. And so there's a little space in here, and that's where all the planets are and everything. So when Garbhodaksha Vishnu came in as an expansion of Mahavishnu, he had nowhere to lie. This word Shai, Garbhodakashai, Chirodakashai, and Karanadakashai means they're lying, sleeping, lying down. Where's he going to lie? So he created the water, filled up to half the universe with his perspiration water. And then Anantashesha manifested, another expansion, and that's the bed. So you always see them lying there. And Lakshmi massaging the feet, So anyway, it goes on like that. So Hiranyaksha had imbalanced the earth, all the mining, too much mining. And the earth fell down into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. You can imagine how disastrous that was. So Brahma said, what am I going to do now? And he's worried, because he's responsible for all the planetary systems. He says, I don't know what to do. So from his nostril manifests this little tiny boar, and gradually grew big, and that was Varaha, the Varaha incarnation, the hog incarnation of the Lord. Why hog? Because he's got that nice horn. This is a wild hog, And he can dig up that earth from the bottom and bring it up to the surface of the water. So that's all described in the 3rd canto. There's an incredible battle between Hiranyaksha and the boar. And of course the boar kills him with a slap to the where is it? I forget. Between the eyebrows or somewhere. Anyway, he hits him with his hoof, and that's the end of Hiranyaksha. So then his brother, Hiranyakashipu, notice the name is still Hiranya. Hiranyakashipu means he who was very attracted to gold and soft bedding, and the bed companion, Prabhupada says. Sex and money. So anyway, there's a whole story, with Prahlad and everything. He eventually gets killed by Nrsingadev. But they don't go back to Godhead. They don't get liberation because they need 3 births. So then they come back as the second pair, who are Ravana and Kumbhakarna, his brother Kumbhakarna. Anyway, it's a long story. Of course, they were killed by Ram. I think Kumbhakarna was killed by Lakshman. But anyway, they became killed. And then the third pair in Krishna Lila, Shishupal and Dantavakra. You'll see there, Krishna kills them eventually. And sometimes it's said they come back as Jagamaya in Chaitanya Lila. Anyway, so the Kumaras were deeply involved. Now they underwent this transformation. They became pure devotees, and they offered this prayer, which I actually memorized once and wrote a poem to, but I forgot it. But their prayer is basically, Kamam Bhaksa Janaya Niyeshan, where our sins will surely take us to hell, But here's our prayer, that all our words, just like the tulsi leaves that are honored by offering to your feet, will be blessed by glorifying you. And that our body and hands and everything will be glorified by serving you. And that our ears will always be filled with your glories. So that's they're praying when they see Vishnu. This is when they see him in Vaikuntha. So anyway, the Kumaras they have their own sampradaya coming down. There's 4 basic Vaishnava sampradayas, all coming down from Krishna. But they have of course, the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya sampradaya. That's our sampradaya. Means it's a chain of gurus and disciples, disciplic succession or parampara. Very important. This is called Amnaya. Amnaya is the source of a knowledge, the Shastra. But how do we get the Shastra? We get the Shastra, the scripture, through the media of pure devotees. This Bhagavad Gita was present in the West for so many hundreds of years, and nobody knew what to make of it. And it was a very interesting book, but no one became a devotee from it because it wasn't being given by a pure devotee, you see. So Amnaya is the Shastra, and the Guru is presenting it. So the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, then there's the Kumara Sampradaya, there's also the Rudra Sampradaya, and the Shri Sampradaya. Shri means Lakshmi. These 4 sampradayas. Ramanuja has come down in that, he was the most prominent acharya in that Shri Sampradaya. So these are all Vaishnava sampradayas, but only in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Gaudiya is Lord Chaitanya. Gaudiya means Bengal, do we find this highest mellow of service to Krishna in the conjugal ras, Radha and Krishna, is so much emphasized and present. The others generally worship much more formally, Lakshmi Narayan, like that, which is fine. But this takes you to a higher intensity and intimacy of Krishna. Not just conjugal rasa, madhurya, also the vatsalya and the sakya rasa are present in the other sampradayas. Sakya is the friendship, Krishna's friends, all that. And the parents, that's another ras, very intimate. And most is the gopis, of course. So now, here it's described, the important aspect here, lokana papan kurvanan, that they're able to purify these worlds, wherever they go, of sin. Papa means sin, and it's interesting that it's a purification. The sin is kind of an impurity that enters into the heart, sinfulness, due to association with the material world, the modes of nature. And describe that sin is due to ignorance. It's just like we're living in this world, and there are governments everywhere, right? Now, if you go to a country, you don't know the law there, which side of the road to drive on, for instance, then you may drive on the wrong side of the road and cause a major accident. Prabhupada, you don't know if you know this, Prabhupada was in a major car accident in Mauritius. And somebody was visiting, and they were coming from a place where you drive on the right side, and you drive on the left side there. And Prabhupada's driving along, he's in the back seat. Back seat? No, it must have been the front seat. Anyway, a few seconds before it happened, it was remembered later that he braced himself as if he could see what was happening. And it was a head-on collision with the car. Luckily, they weren't going too fast. Prabhupada was slightly injured, and the other devotees, So he direct experience of this, but it's the other person's fault. Even though they say, well, I didn't know. That's too bad. You still have to suffer the reactions there, and get arrested or whatever, So that's the problem. We're living in this world, and nobody knows what's the real rules set up by God and the gods, What to speak of nature, people are violating. And so we're suffering sinful reactions due to that ignorance. And it's a chain. You perform some sin, and sometime later it fructifies, and you suffer some pain. You try to mitigate that pain. You're also usually performing another sin, and this way you get entangled. It goes on and like that, a chain. So what's the antidote? Knowledge. Knowledge is the first thing. Knowledge of the laws of God and what you're supposed to really do is the first thing. Now, whether you're going to be receptive to that, that's another question. But these Kumaras are so powerful that just by their presence, they're making people receptive to the message and they're becoming purified. See how powerful they are. And we're going to hear their wonderful instructions to Maharaj Prithu. So wherever they go, they appear many places in the Bhagavatam. And they give wonderful instructions and influence for devotional service. And here, this is, I think, the main place where they offer their instructions that we can take to heart. Now, devotees are meant to be representatives also of Krishna. This is because they're representing Krishna. And representing Krishna means to try to impress people with the truth, to give them real knowledge that they'll accept and transform their lives and begin the path back to Godhead. Krishna is concerned about us because we're all so ignorant. We've turned away from Him. We've become completely covered by the material energy, and we have no idea of anything. But we're still His children. He maintains that connection. He doesn't forget it. We do. So what to do? So sometimes He comes Himself, but more often He sends His representatives. And anyone who's purely representing the message of Krishna, of God, is sinless. One has to be sinless in order to be effective, and is very much beloved of the Lord. He says right in the Bhagavad Gita, "Natatasma manushe kaschim me priya krittama." There will never be one more dear to me than one who is preaching my message in the united world, the material world. So we can easily get that mercy of the Lord. We have the knowledge. Even if we're not pure ourselves, we can still preach, that you were asking. We can give people a book. We can try to get them to chant. We can give prasadam, invite them to the temple, and do so many things. And by that activity, your heart becomes pure. You become more receptive, more appreciative of everything in relation to Krishna. The taste of the holy name increases. The beauty of the deity. I have to remind me to share this verse with you. I was reading about this, the Giridhari's lotus feet. There's a verse in the Govinda Lilamrita that I just learned that I want to share. But just to be able to appreciate that, just to come into the temple or see a picture. I mean, these paintings are all over the world. Everywhere there's a book, there's paintings, right? If someone looks at it and says, "Oh, that's fascinating. That's God," it says, well, someone will look and say, "They really believe God looks like that?" Forget it. In other words, that's a critical point. When someone first comes in contact with devotees, says, "They're weird. I wouldn't be caught dead with them." Or, "Well, that's interesting. That's fascinating." That's the turning point of your life. If you're going to reject, maybe a whole other lifetime. Just to come in contact with the devotees is, in any way, is auspicious because that enters in. But if it's favorable and it leads you to more interest, and curiosity, and then that can be a savior of your life. Your whole life can be changed. So the devotees, such as the Kumaras, their service to Krishna in the material world is to represent Him, is to try to attract. Hare Krishna. No sleeping. Excuse me, Prabhu. Hari Bol. Hello. Sorry, no sleeping. No sleeping. Their service to Krishna is to represent Him, represent as it is, without any adulteration or personally motivated idea. And so the Kumaras are perfect examples of that. And they're very powerful. They have all these mystic powers as described here. And so they're potent preachers. And here we are. It doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. Space doesn't matter here. We are able to get this instruction. And so I always anticipate this part of the Bhagavatam, because this is one of the first books I worked on back in 1974 when I started proofreading. I remember proofreading this, and I remember reading the prayer of Shiva. We already had that, right? Yeah. And the run up to it. We didn't have it yet, right? No, all right, that'll come up. Yeah, that'll come up. This is only, what are we on? 22. Yeah, it comes up later. With the Prachetas. So then it says, oh, this is the best prayer for offering to Krishna. Because there's some verses that before he starts chanting his prayer, it's like 20, 30 verses. And so I immediately, even in my, this is like second year I'm in the movement, I started memorizing these verses. I memorized about 10 of them, But it's exciting once you get past the idea that it's just an ancient book and you're actually there, because transcendental subject matter and like the holy name, it doesn't get stale. It's not, oh, that's an old mantra. That's from the 60s. Or that's from 5,000 years ago. We want a new one. It doesn't work that way. It's transcendental reality. It's just as potent today as it ever was. It's just a question of our ability to appreciate it that will change. So these instructions, I remember one of them is coming up. One should mold, this has never left me. One should mold his life in such a way that he cannot live in peace without drinking the nectar of the glorification of Lord Krishna. Think about that. To have that kind of eagerness. You want to see it in action? Go to the Anchal Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Chaitanya, the importance of being with devotees and sharing Krishna Katha amongst devotees. This is the lifeblood of devotional service. What does it say? The 4 most important verses. Did you know that there's like an essential 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita? I'll tell you what they are. 10th chapter, 8, 9, 10, 11. Maybe later on you can check it out. 10, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. And so the first one is Krishna says, hello, I'm God. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate. This is the definition of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Krishna says, I am the source of everything. Now, you don't know that, so start from your point of view. Everything has come from me. He says it both ways. I'm the source of everything. Everything has come from me. So, what are you going to do about it? If you believe that, then he says, the intelligent who understand this about me, they worship me with all their hearts. You see, that's the next step. If you're fortunate, you believe it, and then you'll act on it. And so the next question is, well, how? That's the next verse. He's going through Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana, which is understanding the relationship. Who is God? Who am I? What is this world? Then acting on it, and then which is called Abhideya practice. So he gives a little summary of what to do. Matchitta. First thing is, put your mind on me. What's the best way of doing it? Chant Hare Krishna. In this age. So that's put your mind. And Madgata Prana. All your life air should go to me. In other words, whatever you're doing, you should dovetail it to my service. This is pure devotion he's describing. Madgata Prana. And then when you get together with devotees, Bodhayantak Parasparam. You get together and glorify me. That's why Prabhupada set up these classes, and the whole association is for that. Society, this international society. So, Bodhayantak means conversing. Parasparam, amongst themselves. And Katayantastamam Nityam, always doing. Nitya means always. Tushyanti Chadamanti. 2 things. One is, Tushyanti means become very pleased, and Ramanti means enjoy spiritual pleasure. That's what we're after. Right? Everyone wants pleasure. But how to get that pleasure that doesn't fade, that doesn't cause more pain after it? Sense gratification just produces more pain. A little tickle and a whole lot of pain, And devotional service means a little suffering, a little austerity, and an unlimited pleasure. So what's the best investment? Which one are you going to go for? Who's intelligent, you see? So then he describes what his response. Because Krishna is not just a dead stone there. He's responding to this devotion. Tesham satadayuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamapi yantite. So, Krishna's in the heart. He knows exactly what we're thinking, what we're doing at all times. Prabhupada says in the introduction, one should not forget this. Tesham satadayuktanam, one who is always linked to me by the process of hearing and chanting and other services. Bhajatam priti purvakam, with love and devotion. Then dadami buddha, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Don't forget, Krishna's in the heart. He can enlighten us. Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishto. Mottak smritir jnanam apohanam. I'm in everyone's heart. From me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness also. So he's giving us more knowledge. He's giving us, the inspiration. Yeah, I could go to the movie, I could go to the bar, I could go to the party, but I think tonight I'll go to the Hare Krishna temple. That's the super soul saying, giving you the preference. And then what happens? Tesham evanukam, out of my mercy, anukampartam. You see, these words, Sanskrit is such a great language, anukampa. Now we know that kampa is one of the 8 ecstatic symptoms, right? What do we sing every day? Mahaprabho kirtananutya gita, padita majan manasora sena, romancha kampa shrutarangabhaja. Kampa. Romancha, hair standing on end, trembling, shivering in ecstasy, and tears flowing down. So kampa means an emotional, is a physical reaction showing an emotion. Anukampa means that Krishna is reacting. He's trembling in relation to our needs and our problems. You see that? So it's a word that means compassion. Without empathy, there's no compassion. Empathy means feeling your feelings. That's what empathy means. Anyway, so tesham evanukampartam. For the sake of showing them compassion, I, within the heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this is the reciprocation of Krishna. So you have the sambandha, understanding first what's going on, acting on it, performing sadhana. In this case, think of me, machita, and work for me, and glorify me. Right in the second verse. And then the result is that Krishna enlightens you from within. You become more and more enlightened. So the whole thing is there in those 4 verses. 10, 8 through 11. You look them up later? Okay. 10, 8 through 11. So these Kumaras, like any staunch preachers, they're looking for a good field. They're looking for a good audience, one who will actually respond. You're ready to present to everybody, but you become very especially enlivened when there's some response, right? Reciprocation. So here they found a wonderful devotee in Maharaj Prithu, and all of everyone's going to listen in. So they're going to be enlightening a whole group there, and we're also listening in. That's what we're doing. We're listening into this conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, and it's all part of the main conversation between Sutta and the sages at Naimisharanya, who is repeating the Bhagavatam that he heard in originally spoken on the bank of the Ganges by Shukadev. So we can it's up to us to be receptive vessels for this wonderful knowledge that's coming. And so that's why all of the processes that we go through of purification and being clean, staying in the mode of goodness, the result of that, one of the main results, is that we become very enlivened to hear about Krishna, to be Krishna conscious. We're ready. We have the spiritual strength to perform the austerities that's necessary to stay on the spiritual platform, Krishna conscious platform. So it's all of a piece. Every element of the morning program and throughout the day, what we do, is all there. It's interrelated. You set a good foundation by being strict in your morning program, chanting nice rounds, hearing the Bhagavatam class. Then you're enlivened to serve throughout the day. That gives you more purification. Next time you chant, and you're more appreciative. And this is how you're able to advance in devotional service. So now we're starting this new planet. Sorry, I just read the word planet. Starting this new chapter, and you'll see when these instructions come how important they are. Right near the beginning, he praises Maharaj Prithu. You've already developed so much devotion, And then he has that verse about not molding your life in such a way. And then near the end, there's the one that Prabhupada would quote all the time. Yat pada pangaja palasa balasa bhaktya karmashayam gudita mudgutayanti santa. He's describing the process that we all experience to one degree or another. And that is that pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya. So, pankaja, this is one of the many words for lotus. Who can guess what it means? Maybe Balaram. Pankaja. Yeah. From the bottom of the river or the bottom of the lake, the lotus grows. So one of the words is pankaja. Another word is abja, which means growing in the water. Ja is short for janma, means birth, you see. Anyway, Kamala, there's so many words. I counted them once, 28 words for lotus in Sanskrit. So that's interesting. So yat pada pankaja, his lotus feet, pada pankaja, pada's feet. Pada and pada, the same word, depending on what the meter you need, you use pada or pada. Pada pankaja, vilasa, yat pada pankaja, vilasa bhaktya. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, then the great devotees, they feel wonderful pleasure. Vilas is the pleasure that comes from bhakti. And what is the result of that? Karmashayan. Karmashayan means aspiring for karmic activities, the material desires. You see, karma, gwatitam, which are like knots in the heart. Udgatayanti, they're untied or they're cut. So that pleasure, that's why we're very much pleasure seekers. We don't renounce that, but what kind of pleasure? How to get the spiritual pleasure is what we're looking for. Because the other pleasure is just, it's a trap. It's a trap. The sense gratification is a trap. It keeps you bound to this world, usually involves so much sin and so much suffering. But this spiritual pleasure doesn't lead to suffering. It leads to the end of all suffering. So here he's describing yat pada pankaja palasha, means the lotus toes, the toes of the lotus feet are the petals. Palasha vilasa bhaktya karma gradita mudgradayanti santa. The saints. The santa is the same word in English or Spanish. Santa, SanDiego. The saints, the devotees, they enjoy the spiritual pleasure of serving Krishna's lotus feet. And thus all the material desires, which are like knots binding into this material world, are cut asunder and killed. On the other hand, those whose minds or hearts are devoid of any bhakti. Rikta matayo means empty of bhakti. Who's that? The jnanis, the staunch impersonalists, the yogis who are just after the siddhis, you see. And of course the karmis, the out and out, mostly people you see who are just into material, the sense gratification. Their minds and hearts are devoid of bhakti. Even those who want siddhis, that's a material desire. Those who want just mukti, that's a material desire. It's not spiritual. What's spiritual is the desire to satisfy Krishna. That's the spiritual desire. So even though they may be very austere, you see them in the forest, in the mountains of the Himalayas, they've been there for years, and they practice severe austerities. It's very impressive, But the heart is empty of bhakti, then they eventually come down to material things. They'll like so many stories in the Bhagavatam of yogis like Dravida Dasa, very powerful yogi, he had many thousands of disciples, But his heart was full of envy for Ambarish, a great devotee who was this humble devotee. He's a king, had to do with something, but he was always thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna. So this Dravida wanted to bring him down. In fact, he wanted to kill him, So anyway, it's a long story, but instead he was chastised by Krishna's chakra, So that's what this story says. And at the end he says, therefore, because there's only like 4 classes of people in the whole world. There's the karmis, there's the out and out, Lord Chaitanya defines it, bhukti kamis, those who are lusty after material enjoyment. The bhukti mukti siddhi, those who are desirous of their own liberation, the hell with everyone else. I want to get free of all pain. That's a material desire. So the mukti kamis, impersonalists, jnanis. And then comes the siddhi kamis, the yogis who really want all these powers. Can you imagine being able to be smaller than the smallest, lighter than the lightest, bigger than the biggest, control nature, get anything you want? Pretty tempting, huh? That they stay bound to this material world. And so the last words of the verse is, Bhaja Vasudevam, worship Krishna. You see? In other words, you have 4 choices. You can be an out-and-out bogey, just trying to enjoy your senses, which is stupid, and just keeps you suffering, you lose the human form of life. You can be a siddhi kami, which is a little better. You're a yogi, you're self-controlled, but your motive is to get these very great powers and then enjoy. And then you're mukti kami, which is I want to be free of all misery, but it's still self-centered. Yeah, that's impersonal. And the Bhagavatam says you can't stay there. Eventually you come back down because it's unnatural. Just to be free of all form and qualities and have no thoughts and no desires. For devotee, it's anathema. It's something that you just, it's worse than going to hell. There's no Krishna. There's no form. You have no senses. You can't chant because you have no tongue. You have nothing. You're just consciousness. I am that I am. Oh, what a relief. No more pain. But how can you live like that for long? That's not life. Life is interaction, is exchange, is activities. So anyway, that's one of the last instructions of these Kumaras, which we'll come up on in a couple of weeks. Okay, any questions or comments? Dharmaraj Prabhu.
For one who has weak faith, or what to speak of a materialist or an atheist, when they hear these really interesting, far-out descriptions of like the beginning of the universe, Lord Brahma, the four Kumaras, and Varaha coming from the nostril, and these sort of things, it is very difficult for them to make any progress. Like imagine someone just fresh off the street, they're coming here for a Sunday feast, and this is like the first thing they hear. So
that's why you probably shouldn't talk about that at the Sunday feast.
So, yeah, how did you deal with that personally? Like,
how did I deal with it?
Not deal with it, but like, what was your thought process as well?
You mean when I first
as a new
encountered
devotee? Yeah, first reading these sort of things, all the far out, stuff that doesn't compute with our experience.
That's a good question. I'm trying to recall. It's like this is how it worked for me, and I think for many others. The experience of the chanting and the interaction with the devotees and seeing their blissfulness, their peacefulness, and the fact that the chanting, when you really get into it, both in japa and kirtan, what it does, a very important thing, which is not often talked about, it kind of loosens your sense of the absolute reality of this world. In other words, for the gross materialists, it's obvious that this is all there is. This is our experience. This is real. Everything else is like you're just blowing smoke. I got to pay the rent, and I got my kids, and it's that's what I'm dealing with. All this highfalutin stuff. But I mean, human life is meant for more than that. Clearly, So I'd been wrestling with the thing. It wasn't my, meeting the devotees wasn't my first interaction with yoga or stuff like that. I'd already been doing yoga, and I had some, information about different mantras and things like that. So, and from chanting, I had been chanting quite a while before I actually went to the temple and interacted. I got the Hare Krishna mantra, and I was doing it at home. So I was already experiencing the potency of it, the reality of that. That was a direct experience, that something was there. I couldn't pinpoint it. But it definitely, made me joyful and peaceful, and I became interested in Krishna just by chanting, And I can't say that I immediately accepted everything as the truth, but it kept me within the association. And I had the good fortune of actually seeing Prabhupada for 2 weeks after I joined, which is unusual. And what really is one of the most distinguishing factors of Prabhupada's books, what to speak of lectures, is that there's no hint of a doubt there. Yeah, from Prabhupada himself. And it comes through the books also. But, the voice, as you read recently, the saffron mercy particles. Yeah, so that absolute surety, it says, well, who am I? In other words, I'm just struggling along in complete ignorance. Here's someone who's perfected soul, self-realized, who is displaying all of these qualities of certainly determination and steadiness amongst difficulty what he went through. I knew some of this. Anyway, altogether, it gave me enough faith to keep with the process. And after a while, this is actually a big test, because we had devotees who, when it came to even the story of one devotee couldn't accept that we weren't going to the moon. He dragged in the television to show Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was right there in the middle of it, 68, 69. 69 was the first moon shot. Supposedly they landed on the moon. So he couldn't accept that we didn't go to the moon. There's it right on the TV, as if you can't fake it on the TV. So that was, we had devotees who lost their faith in that. And the fifth canto was a big test. Oh my God. Local mountain is supposed to be over there. I don't see it. This earth is flat. Is it? So many things. It never bothered me. Maybe I was just fortunate. Devotees had trouble with it. Is that somehow it's true, somehow I'll understand it eventually. This Bhagavatam is given by Lord Chaitanya. It's the absolute truth coming down. So I'm saying that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, they're all bewildered. Doesn't compute. No, I'm going with the fact that I'm bewildered, and it'll eventually be revealed to me. And meanwhile, the whole process is going on. You have to stay with it, because you get into the modes. One of the things of the modes, the modes of passion and ignorance, is to make you doubt, because you have a motive. You see, the thing is that the human consciousness is very complicated. And, in the modes, a motive. Look at Arjuna. Arjuna is an example. How his gut reaction, his heart, was being broken by the idea that I'm going to be involved with killing my beloved guru, Dronacharya, what the Bhishma. Here are my cousins who I don't want to live without, even though they try to kill me. He's such a... called the Dhartarashtrans, the sons of Dhritarashtra, So his emotion, his heart was that I don't want to do it. And therefore his head was serving the heart. In other words, he had all these arguments based on the Vedas. I've heard in the Vedas that if all the men are killed, the women become unprotected, then the Varna Sankara, the earth will be overrun by, unqualified people. And I'll be involved in sinful reaction, and I'll make everyone else. What's the percentage? I don't care. I don't care about this kingdom. He was looking at it he was giving us. This is a materialist perspective, tinged with the Vedas. There's a whole part of the Vedas that's completely materialistic. Krishna condemns it in the Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Kanda, and all that. But but my point is that you want to do something and you make an argument for it. Now, that's what we have going around all around here. You want to dominate the world. We want to rule the world. Full spectrum dominance is called. They even have things. We've got this powerful army and this military we've built up. We've got nuclear weapons, everything. So how are we going to convince people that it's the right thing to do? Okay, we'll make all this idea that they're demons and they're international terrorists, and we'll I'm not going to say that they did 9/11, but it's a possibility. This false flag. And so, in this way, we'll convince everyone. So there's a big hollowing out in your own heart. You're lying. This is the 16th chapter. You see, but it sounds good, and your mind you're ready to fool so many people, and people become fooled. They're so convinced in their wrong philosophy. Look around them. Even just the wrong philosophy of materialism, which obviously is self-destructive. So the point is that knowing all this and how the mind works, I was ready to suspend my disbelief and put it on myself and said, well, I'm not enlightened, but Srila Prabhupada is enlightened. He believes in this book. He's given me a process that I've experienced is helpful, and that is very potent. So I'm going to go with that and stay with it. And that's how I got through it. And to this day, you read about so many amazing things. But, hey, when you actually think about it, Bhadra Ramesh is expert at this. The very material world is so inconceivable. What to speak of all of these things? For me, I was just thinking of this yesterday, how the body, the material body, the human body that we have, any body, but just think of our own body, that is the proof of God. Just the complexity and what happens. Like I've been going around for 72 years in this body, and it's still repairing itself. I had a little problem with my foot. Now it's better. I banged my elbow. I said, oh boy, this is going to be around for a while. But it's gotten better, even just in 2 days. And the body is so set up in such a way. And you're saying that no intelligence is behind that? That doesn't make any sense. that there's no master intelligence figuring out all these very intricate, complicated things working like that? Of course there is. So this whole edifice of science, built up on materialistic ideas, they're a huge illusion. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to go with this parampara of realized souls who, yes, the first thing they tell you, it's beyond the range of your intellect and your senses. So why are you trying to understand it that way? You have to suspend that and develop faith. So that's how I got through it, and I'm still getting through it, because there's always amazing things. God appears as a boar, okay, dropped into the Garbhodak ocean. Well, what happened to all the people? Did they drown? Well, I'm not going to worry about that right now. That's how it works for me. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. You had a question? Go ahead.
Back in 2012, back in 2012, when I was more exposed to Krishna consciousness because of my daughter, Karunamai.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing her, dancing and chanting, and I remember seeing her looking at her really she's weird. She became really weird to me because I didn't understand. I was what's wrong with her? But I was attracted to the song, the sound and things like that. But and then, I think Krishna knows what is in our hearts before we know what is in our hearts.
For sure.
So, and I saw a big difference, in her. I said, wow, she has changed for the best. It has to be something there. Something is there. So I think Krishna gave us that intelligence, when you see the taste. I saw the taste, in her, and I was like, she has that taste. And I want what she has. Yeah. And I'm like, and I was so glad when I came to a temple, but it was just first it's weird, but the thing is this is nectar. Yeah.
You're fortunate because there's been instances, many devotees where your brother, your some relatives, they don't come over. They try to bring you back from your brainwashed condition, But yeah.
Yeah, Karuna's mercy brought me.
Yeah. That's how it is. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Karunamayi, yeah. That's right. Maid of mercy.